Trevor James was a bass player first, but along the way, he decided he wanted to focus entirely on his own music. Yesterday, we sat down with Trevor to learn more about his transition from being an instrumentalist first to being a soloist.
It was absolutely incredible. I mean, it gives you the exact vibe of being in a studio. It's just you have to be a little bit more on point because you have people watching you. So you don't want to waste anybody's time. But it was, I mean, it's such an incredible invention, first of all, you know, to come up with something like this, because it's literally the first. I've never experienced anything like this, and to have great sound quality, great people to work with. You know, I'm all about great personalities. You know,
And Ashley's
amazing. I'm still shook. Yeah. You know how incredible it is to be here at NAMM. Perfect location, perfect day, perfect weather. I mean, you can't ask for anything more.
I want to talk a little bit about how you got started with music. So do you mind telling me a little bit about your journey?
So I grew up around music. My father is a lead singer. He's a singer, and he back in the 80s, 1986, if he hears this, he's going to chuckle. Back in 1986, he was a Star Search winner. And Star Search, it was the American Idol version back in the 80s. It kind of started everything, and he was the grand champion. And he was always, you know, on tour and traveling. So when I was born, you know, he would have rehearsals at the house with his band, with his guys. So
it's just always been around.
Always around. He'd have me up on stage while he's rehearsing, you know, with like a, 9-piece horn section, and I'm sitting there out in the audience and just soaking all this in. I was a little kid in the back of the club, 3, 4 years old, that's out at past midnight, sitting there with my little Barney dinosaur watching these musicians play. So it was one of those things that it was just natural to get in. It wasn't like, oh, I had to force myself or I was forced. He actually didn't even want me to get into music because he knew of all the ups and downs and the things like that. But it just fell into place, and one day he wanted me to play in his show, play bass, and it just took off from there.
Yeah, because I know you started out on the bass, right?
Yeah, so I am a bass player first. Like, I'd say maybe the past year or two, I picked back up the guitar because I can't sing and play bass at the same time. For some reason, my brain doesn't want to do it, but with guitar, I can strum and play and still sing. But yeah, I'm a bass player first. That's what I was known for. It's like, oh, he's the bass player. But I didn't want to be considered just the bass player anymore. I wanted to be more than that, and I felt like if I have the potential and the outlets, and I'm putting myself out there to perform with other people, I can put that same time and energy into myself. And so that's kind of what I did. All the music that I play, though, all the recorded music, I am playing bass. No one's ever going to come on my album and play. I will play bass still, And when I go out of town or like for certain tours with other people, I'm a bass player. So that's been I've always loved the bass, but I've always liked guitar because I always.
Yeah, because one of the things that when I was reading up on you, you've traveled a lot,
yes.
toured a lot,
yes.
Always as a bass player.
Yes, always.
So you mind talking a little bit about, because to me it seemed like you were already pretty established and was, for many people's point of view, living the dream.
It is. It's one of those. It is kind of like that. Touring, playing music for a living. It's great, but I wanted to set myself up for the long run. I didn't want to be someone that has to always get the gig. If you're an artist or you're touring with an artist, that artist has the privilege and opportunity anytime to say, you know what, I'm going to cancel this tour short. Yeah. Now, you've planned for this month-long tour. Now you go back home trying to find gigs on a weekend. And I see a lot of guys that are, in their 50s and 60s that are incredible musicians, have a long list of people that they've played with, but they're playing on, the weekends and things like that, which isn't bad, but I wanted more than that. Yeah. And I felt like as an artist, I can kind of dictate what I wanted to do. As a bass player, I've got to dress like they want to dress. I've got to play what they want to play, and I'm like, I grew up in such a solo artist household that I saw him, saying, no, I don't want to play that, or no, it should be this way. And I'm like, that's what I want. There's more freedom, but at the same time, it is more of a struggle because you're putting yourself out there as like, hey, accept me, this is my music, and you have a lot of self-doubt in there. It comes with, writing. Artists are very sensitive, and you write something and you're not sure if they like it, and, you're second guessing yourself. You see someone that's doing something big and you're like, oh, I can't reach that, but you have to put that first foot out there. You got to jump off the cliff. And as a bass player, or even just any kind of musician, you have the luxury of just people just tell you where to go. If you have a tour, equipment's there, you just show up, play, and then
that
and then
direction.
leave.
Okay.
Exactly.
I'm
Exactly. As an artist, you gotta organize rehearsal. If you're still coming up, you gotta organize rehearsals. You gotta write the music. You gotta make sure everyone's on time, and it's a lot of pressure. But in the long run, it's worth it because you have something that you can fall back on. It actually started a couple years ago at NAMM, a great bass player and friend, Daryl Williams, smooth jazz bass player. He's got records and things, and at the time when we were talking, I wasn't writing my music. I was trying to tour with people, and he said, are you writing your own music? And I'm like, not really. And he said, make sure you write your music because you always have something to go back on, and you'll never not have work, if you write and it was like a seed that planted in my head, and I was like, I'm going to be the artist. That's where it started. I was like, I'm going to focus on myself because I'm going to jam sessions, putting out, videos, doing cover videos, trying to get their attention. But I'm like, why am I putting all this stuff out to just go on tour with someone else when I can try to get my own tour and be able to, dictate where I want to go, what I want to do. And it's just, you just have like you said, have the freedom to do more as an artist. And if you have the potential and the mindset, shoot for the stars. There's no need to limit yourself as this. Just keep going.
Keep dreaming.
Yeah, exactly. What do you want from me? Maxine, how can you be so mean? Maxine, oh Maxine, Maxine.
Trevor, before we went and got these, we were talking about some of the struggles of moving from being just a dedicated bass player, touring with other artists, and then moving into being your own boss, right?
Right, exactly.
And the struggle, the anxieties. Do you mind just talking a little bit about some of the obstacles that you face in that transition?
Absolutely. I'd say the obstacle is having places and people like your music. Being and finding the right crowd that enjoys your music. When you don't have management and people kind of doing everything for you, you really have to put yourself out there, send emails, even if they don't get back to you, in a couple days, you send another one, and those are the struggles, especially when you get an email that says, you're not the sound we're looking for. You can't let that get you down. You have to pretty much put your foot forward and then have everything else line up. You can't put all your eggs in one basket. If you're going for a gig or a show, you can't just bank on that. You submit something and then kind of forget about it and then go and try to work on other stuff, and it's a lot of starting over. I put out a couple songs and albums that weren't my style, and it's all about finding your sound, because you don't want to be boring. And at the same time, you don't want to blend in with everybody else. It's like
gotta be your own,
exactly.
right?
It's a really fine line because there's so many people that will make stuff just because that's the trend.
But how have you tried to be the most authentic Trevor James?
I'd say I kind of dug deep of who I am, what my vibe is, and kind of what my mindset is. I'm a very I'd say I'm a people person. I like to, have a good time, see everyone, smiling. So I kind of wanted to write music that, in my head, picture like a group of friends in a car all singing along to. Like you're gonna sing along the journey, and I wanted that kind of vibe. And I changed my whole style, my look. I used to have really short hair. I started growing this out, and it kind of was. I always wanted to be a rocker. I always wanted to be, I always wanted to rock and roll and play on stage and shred and all that kind of stuff. And so I just kind of developing my own style and became more comfortable in my writing and not forcing it. Like it wasn't like, okay, I'm going to write this, or I'm going to write pop music, I'm going to write rock music. I just kind of sat down, just started playing, and it just all started flowing. And it was like, okay, I'm finding my sound. I'm finding and it takes time,
But was it not to overuse the word struggle or anxiety or all that, but how was it moving from, playing other people's stuff to now you have to put in time in that and say, maybe I haven't even done it before, but I have to become good at it.
It's definitely a struggle, because if you're a instrumentalist, you play with a lot of guys and you have a very creative mindset. Like you make everything complicated than it is. And if you're trying to be on the radio or, really reach out to a lot of people, you can't be complicated and busy, So it's one of those things that I was coming from a lot of jazz fusion stuff. So it's like I'm writing a lot of this, and it's like, okay, the people that like it are some musicians, but I'm not getting out to the masses, and it's a challenge, because you kind of sit back and you get discouraged. It's like, I don't know, like this is my goal here and I don't know how to reach it. And it's a struggle, and you have your ups and downs coming from the instrumental world, because there's a lot of people, that go to these big artist concerts that they don't know anything about music, but the music feels good. Yeah. And you have to make feel good music, and it's tough to make a good song and not make it too complicated. That's always my struggle, is to make something simple enough for the average person to like it, but technical and complicated enough for the musician to dig it.
So when it becomes overly complicated, that's when people start to
kind of glaze over. You play too many fast notes, for like maybe 30 seconds, a minute, it sounds cool, but then everyone's like, okay, I don't really know.
Yeah, where are we going now?
Yeah, it's like, that's a lot of, I don't get it. And that's what I was doing before. I would play all this cool stuff, and your musician friends would be like, oh, that's the C chord over to this, and blah, blah, blah. But the normal people that will really support you and come out, they're like, oh, it's cool, but like, I'm not going to play this all the time. I got to be in a certain mood. And that's always a struggle. And I feel like, I still struggle with that. I'll write something, and I'm like, oh, I can add this. I'm like, oh, I can add this. And then I go to sleep and wake up the next day, and I'm like, what is going on? Like, these different time changes and notes and things. I'm like, okay, I got to pull back.
But it sounds like a real conundrum, even, because you want to get recognized for the skill that you have.
Exactly.
But then again, you also want as many people, you want the world to hear what you created. Right?
Exactly. And that's a perfect a point, because you don't want to sell yourself out and be someone that's boring, but you want to let the world know, hey, I got chops. I'm pretty good. And it's just a very fine line between that. And if you are trying, I have a lot of friends that are incredible musicians that have these great, fusion albums, and I like it. But, it might not be their goal to reach out to more people. But at the same time, you kind of have to play what's in your heart. At the end of the day, you just got to play what's in you, because you can't please everybody. It's one of those, you can't please it. There's people that don't like Michael Jackson and Prince and James Brown, and you have to think to yourself, well, how can you not like them? If people don't like them, well, shoot, I can write whatever, and I can't please everyone, even though you want to. Everyone wants everyone to like you. Everyone is always like, oh, I hope they like me. But there's going to be a group of people that just don't understand the music. They don't understand the concept, they don't understand the lyrics, the groove, and you have to tell yourself that, focus on the people that like your music.
But I think that for a lot of people, that's a really tough realization to make, because at heart, we just really want to please people.
Exactly. And the thing is, it's like, you want to please people, and you'll have 20 people saying, we love your music, but it takes that one person to write a nasty comment and say, oh, this is garbage. Yeah. And then then you start second guessing, you start thinking, well, the people that like my music, do they really like my music, or are they lying to me? And then you kind of lose it. And that happens to me, all the time. Is like, you have your friends and family, they're always going to say that your stuff is good. And then when you hear someone say, oh, it's okay. And then you start thinking, does everyone think I'm okay? Or they don't want to hurt my feelings or what? But you have to kind of blow that, you have to push it out.
I have one final question, Trevor, and I know that you just said there's no easy remedy, and there's no just do this, that, and that, and then you're golden. But if you had to give somebody who's thinking, contemplating about doing the same move as you did, changing from being a instrumentalist first into a artist first, what would that be?
Be persistent, be personable, and be active. You know, we live in a day and an age that social media is the main thing. And you'll get people that follow you and they'll, you know, give you a little underhand cut like, wow, you post a lot. And then you start thinking, well, maybe I do post a lot. No, if they think you post a lot, they can unfollow you, they can unfriend you. You're not posting this stuff for their, you know, gratification. You're posting this stuff to get seen, get heard, get known, and get your, you know, your face around it. If you post a lot, and people are gonna know your face, they're gonna be like, okay, who is this guy that has posted 4 pictures in 20 minutes? Let me check him out. And they're like, oh, okay, he's cool. And I say that would be, in today's day and age, that's the best thing to do. Is you want people to see your face. And social media is a blessing and a curse at the same time because everyone's doing it. But at the same time, it's an easy way to get out. So if someone says you post too much and you stop posting, you never know who's looking on social media and happens to be on that time. You know, a great producer could be looking and he doesn't see your picture. But if you post at that time and he's scrolling, he's like, oh, who's this? He's like, oh, okay. Exactly. It's all about staying focused on your goal, because you'll get away, you know, you'll get away from your sound and you'll try to make stuff that sounds like what's happening now. You know, you don't have to be too creative and out there. Just be yourself. You know, write what's in your heart, and there's a genre for that. If you like playing 60s rock and roll, there is a genre for that. Focus on your strengths. You don't have to. You want people to listen to your music and say, wow, I really dig it, and not, wow, he's trying to sound like so-and-so. He's trying to act like so-and-so. So it's about persistence, being personable, because everyone likes to have someone that they can relate to. That they can be like, wow, I feel like I can grab a beer with him. You know, I feel like we can hang out. You know, if you're too distant, you can't get that, you know, warmth from them. So it's all about just being, like I said, personable, active, and persistent. That's my goals that I kind of go by.
Fantastic. Trevor, one thing, you are personable and you're really an easy conversation.
Oh, thank you, man.
I love having you here.
Oh, this is an honor. It's truly an honor.